Hi, good morning, and welcome to this new class that I'm going to offer, and it's Introduction to Christian Apologetics. Yeah, Apologetics. And welcome again. Some of you are coming back and familiar with my class, and I suspect some of you may be new students, new to my class. Anyway, this will be spring 2022, and from Lordland College. So we begin our lesson, but before we begin actual lesson, probably it's proper for me to introduce myself. And those who already had my class, you know who I am, but for the new students, I want to welcome you and I introduce myself. My name is Hwang. Hwang is my family name, and some of your Chinese students, you may be able to know the meaning of my name. The Hwang, it means yellow, and Song means something that of holiness or holy, and Su, it means excellent or outstanding. So that's a name given my grandfather, who happens to be also a Christian believer from North Korea, and he expected me to be someone who is doing God's work, and here I am, being a pastor and teaching in a seminary, and also teaching about Christianity. So I think my grandfather's wish has been realized to some degree, even though I'm not that, I cannot tell myself I'm excellent in holiness. That's I'm hoping for, and that would be a blessing if I reach that level. So that's the name for this instructor. And I was born in Korea and raised there until high school, the junior year in high school. And then my father, who's a medical doctor, had moved to Africa to serve there. And it's kind of government thing. Government sent him to be in Africa to serve their country. And actually the country that I was in is called Central African Republic, and it's right in the middle of the African continent. Because I moved in junior high there, but started over from high school on. Actually started as a third grader in junior high. So it took me several years back to get my high school degree. Anyway, I attended there in American missionary school. Yeah, it's a school for the missionary kids, missionary children. And there I was convicted of my faith, even though I attended a church since when I was young. But actual conversion, accepting Jesus Christ as my personal Savior and the Lord, happened in Africa, in that school, the Christian school. And then I came back to Korea for the college education after spending 5 years in Africa. And then I was involved in University Christian Fellowship, which is a campus ministry, campus work, ministry to evangelize the campus, the secular college, and attended Yonsei University, which is one of the top 3 schools in Korea, and majored in English language and literature. But I was heavily involved in our university ministry and become a chapter president and led a college for a year. I mean the chapter for a year. Then after graduation, I went to seminary, knowing that God had called me to be a full-time minister of some sort, either missionary or a pastor. But I started as a prospect for a student ministry staff. So I became a full-time staff after 3 years of a seminary work, and then I become a campus staff for Yonsei University. So after 10 years, I came to the States for the study. But until today, since it's been more than like 30 years, and I was always focusing on this young people meaning college kids or younger, or young adults at the most. So that has been my calling, and that has been my passion for the last 30 years or so of my ministry work. And basically, I label myself an evangelical Christian. Evangelical Christian who believes the sole and absolute authority of the Bible. Taking full Bible as a full inspired words of God. That's my position about my faith. And then there are some others who have different faith. But I want you to know that the thing I teach, I try to base and found it on the Bible, the Scripture, Holy Scripture, and nothing else. So if the Bible says so, it is so. And currently I work as a pastor for a young adult Korean American, and the Korean speaking mainly. I used to work with the Korean speaking, English speaking, and both, and so that has been my experience in America since I came here in year 93, I believe. And then I also work as a hospice chaplain. Hospice is a kind of work that is geared toward those who has been diagnosed as a terminal, meaning they have average 6 months or less to live. So basically dying patients, and I work with them to just help them to have some peace and have that eternal hope assured and get ready for the heaven. So, and I also work in this college as an instructor. So that's pretty brief for my last 30 years of work or life. And let's go on. So we begin with our course syllabus. And title, my title for formal official title for my class will be Introduction to Christian Apologetics. We'll go on and continue to define the word apologetics. But this is introduction level. Don't expect it to be too difficult. I'll try to just provide a basic concept and then two major topics that are related to Christian apologetics. So that would be my intention for this class. So course description. This course is designed to introduce, as I told you, students, you guys, to the field of Christian apologetics. So basically, we will try to get to know what the Christian apologetics is about. And it will give attention to the rationale for apologetics and its fundamental contents. So we'll try to get the elements and the concepts, conceptualizing and why it is important and how are we going to approach this Christian apologetics. That's going to be the main topic. Then after that is done, we'll try to go into some of the major topics that are very relevant and important to Christian apologetics at the fundamental level, the basic level. So that will be the course description. And then continuing on course description, students will be introduced to the basics in defense of faith, how we defend our faith, and the core issues in apologetics, including the existence of God, the authority of the Bible, and supremacy of Christ and God, and then other religions, maybe. Yeah, we'll see. Goals. At the completion of this course, students should be able to, I expect you to be able to, number one, have access to the key information on the crucial perspective and concept in apologetics. So you're going to have a basic perspective, how we're going to see it, how we approach our faith and in defending it and explaining it. Number two, have an ability to think critically. So critical thinking is a key, one of the key words that you need to remember, because whole process of Christian apologetics has to do with having and be able to exercise your critical thinking as a believer. And then number three, have grown in your own understanding of your own intellectual aspect of your own faith. So you should be able to, in Christianity there's an intellectual part, there's an emotional part, and there's your desire and will part. That's the three main elements for a human being to move about or to live. And especially thinking, there's an intellectual aspect. So you ought to have put some intellectual process that is needed to understand your faith. Because when we say faith, people think it's something vague and something emotional and something that is mysterious, which will not be able to explain in a logical and rational manner. But when you're done with apologetics, then you will be able to do rational, logical, and scientific presentation of your faith, which seems to be vague and unorganized. So these are some of the goals that we are going to try to reach before the end of the whole class. So there's going to be 10 weeks of classes, and within the 10 weeks of classes, I expect you to do the required readings. The number one book is by Beverly James, Religion A to Z. This is a pretty basic book, and by Thomas Nelson, publisher. And then we have the book, which is really the main text, Douglas Groothuis. Okay. Yeah, it's a difficult name to pronounce. It's a Christian Apologetics and by university. So these are two basic readings, and then we have recommended reading, C.S. Lewis. It's called Mere Christianity, and this is a very good book to read for you to understand what Christian apologetics is in a practical way. He's not a theologian, so you'll have the perspective of just a layperson. Brian G. Chilton, The Layman's Manual on Christian Apologetics, Bridging the Essentials of Apologetics from the Ivory Tower to the Everyday Christian. So second book as well is for the lay people, non-pastors, non-missionaries, non-theologians, but who are interested in the knowledge and the aspect of Christian apologetics. So these two books are not the theological. It's not written in a theological way, but it is very helpful for you, for just everyday students like us. So these are a couple books that I recommend for you to read if you are able to. And here's the requirements. Attendance counts 50% of the whole total grade points. So 10 classes, if you attend one class, there will be 5 points given. No questions asked. Okay, then you have writing assignments, and which is in the form of reading report, 3 to 5 page summary and reflection, including your critical comments. I talked about critical thinking, and you just do not summarize the book, but you have to reflect on it, kind of review on it. So there are 2 required reading, means they're 10 points each, 2 of them, and 20 points total. Then term paper, which you will be thinking from today and beginning today, and think about it. And it will be 10 to 15 pages at maximum, so less than 15 pages. It's going to be an academic writing. An academic writing, it means it has to have certain topics, and you have to write your own ideas about that topic, which is called thesis. So you should have a thesis, and that means it has to have some proofs and some support in your own kind of explanation and elaboration about the idea or the topic or theme. So on the relevant theme of your choice, so you choose one of the themes that are related to this Christian apologetics. You can write about a person. For example, you can write about C.S. Lewis, and then write 10, 15 pages on him, who he is, and his work on the apologetics and how he perceived Christianity and so on. Or you can write about the supremacy of Christ. Or you can write about, does really God exist? So these are some of the topics that you can choose, which is apologetic theme. And due on the last day of the class, last class of this this term. Then aptitude. I'm going to give you lesson every week, and I don't have no way to know that whether you're going to see and hear this lecture or not. So I suggest that you will write the one-page summary or review of each class. So that will be 1 point, and then total of 10 points. And writing about the papers, it has to be on letter size, font size of 10 in Microsoft Word program, or any other program. Size 10 will be the, I think that's universal. And then it should be double space and printed. No handwriting, please. Has to be printed. Because this is not a high school level, this is college level education, and I'm not asking too much, I don't think. And you should be printing out your reports for your own sake. Grading, yeah. Give 5 levels of grading, F being fail. You don't pass this class if you're 60 points and under, including 60 points. You have to at least make a 61. 60 would not be enough. So 61 to 70 would be D, 71 to 80 C, 81 to 90 B, and 91 to 100, that you're gonna get an A. I'm not gonna do A minus, A plus, just A. Okay. All right. Just let's go over briefly over the contents that we are going to cover. There are going to be three parts in this study. And part 1 is basically it's an introduction, and we are going to deal with the concept and what apologetics is about. They will take more than half of the class. So it is, since this being the introduction, I really want to introduce. And you need to get the basic, really basic, the concepts and perspectives and the reasons. You should be able to say, oh, if you are asked by someone, what is apologetics in Christianity, in the church, and you should be able to answer those questions. So you begin with what is apologetics, and I'm gonna give a brief history in lesson 2, 3, nature of apologetics, and then principles of healthy apologetics, and then 5, needs. Why do we need this apologetics? And then there's a certain agenda that you had to deal with, the topics and the themes and so on. And then we'll see if there's any cases written in the Bible. So apologetics in the Bible. And lesson 8 will be categories of apologetics. So these are some of the topics that we are going to cover. And part 2, going to deal with the Bible. That's 2 major topics that we are going to deal in the category, the topic of apologetics. Number 1, common accusations against the Bible, and authenticity question, then inspiration question, and then fulfilled messianic prophecies. So by looking at these, we are going to prove and defend that our Bible, our scripture, the Holy Bible, is true and correct, and it's the truth. It's the truth. Then Jesus, the Son of God, the Christ, And there are three basic questions that people ask. Is Jesus, is he the Savior, really? And Jesus, is he the man or God? And then very intense and intense debate and controversy about resurrection. So these are the three topics that we'll deal with. Okay. So that briefly introduces our lesson on the Okay, we'll begin with the part 1, Introduction to Apologetics, and gonna be controversy. If one is to counter the sophisticated theories on the marketplace, marketplace meaning the secular word, or actual living today, arrayed against biblical Christianity and the Bible itself, one must be thoroughly prepared. That's what we are to be. I want you to be prepared. Have answer to your mouth. And this is taken from the Introduction to Christian Apologetics by Billy Sichon. Anyway, when there is an encounter, attack, or offense against something or some idea, and we say that's a controversy. See, as long as there is a human history, there's going to be a lot of these controversies, meaning different opinions, different ideas crashing against each other. It happens within the family. It happens among the siblings, meaning brothers and brother, sister and sister, brother and sister. There are always these arguments because you're trying to defend yourself because you have differences, and many times these differences just stay and go on without problem. But when it tries to take away your something, whether it's going to be your money, possession, or it's going to be your self-esteem, or against your ego, or just simply against your opinion, the way that you want to do it. And if someone says, no, don't do it, then there's going to be that controversy. And controversy takes many different forms. So when there's a controversy, it might be contradiction, and it could be causing conflict. So these are all pretty similar, but it tells there's a one body, one person or another person. Could it be people versus people, and then idea versus idea, and then belief against another belief? So let's just simply says, religion. A lot of things that go on in modern history has to do with the belief. Okay, there's underlying causes as well, like oil money and the power and then dominance of the world and so on. But it all starts with the belief against another belief. Christianity versus Islam, or democracy versus communism. That's Cold War, right? Soviet Union, China, mainland China, communist China against Western world. And it's still going on. See, the war that goes on today in Ukraine, that's Russia against Western world. See, there's always this conflict and controversies. And there are many ways to resolve this contradiction or controversy or conflicts. But one of the ways to resolve this is do a rational and logical encounter. And it's called, usually it's called so debate, argument, which is in a form of dialogue. Log meaning talking. Dia means two. So two or more parties talking to one another. So it's a speech war, language fight. It's very civilized form of resolving controversy or defending your position. So, in American schools, you learn a lot about having debate and arguments. And that's basically where we start. That's the common idea. Okay, before we go further, let's take a short break and I'll come back. All right, let's continue our study. So, the next, lesson 1. What is apologetics? What is it? We'll try to answer that very very question. The word apologetics, that's not a everyday word. People rarely use this. Even in media and newspaper, you don't see this word that often. But when you come to a seminary or Christian schools, apologetic is the one word that you are going to hear and you need to know about what it means. So begin with the word origin. Comes from ancient Greek, which is like in the New Testament Bible. And then translation of Old Testament called Septuagint. These are the books or the documents that uses Old Greek, ancient Greek. In ancient Greek, there's a word apologia, spelled that way in the Greek, apologia. And this, the classical Greek, it's a classical, in the classical Greek legal system, the law, like a court and judge and lawyer and so on. This word, particular word, is used in categoria. Categoria is the accusation or charge. Today we use a category in different word meaning, but in ancient Greek, categoria means a charge. And then there's a charge, categoria, and against categoria you should have an apologia. Another word is accusation, right there. Accusation. You need to get familiar with this word because we're going to use that word accusation very often in this class. Accusation means people telling someone that he or she has done something wrong. It could be a person or it could be a group of people and so on. So for example, today, if you go into the news, the Russian president, Putin is accused of having a war crime, meaning that he is targeting the civilians. So that's an accusation. It's an accusation until it is proven to be guilty. So in the court of the law, if you go to a court, there is always an accusation. Sometimes it's going to be the whole society, so public against a defendant. A defendant is someone who has been or being accused of crime or of fault. So there is a defendant and then prosecutor. Prosecutor is someone who prosecutes or giving that accusation. So two parties there, and then defendant usually has a lawyer who is helping the defendant to defend, and that defense is called apologia. So in today's English, it will be apology. But in English, apology means saying sorry, I'm sorry, I've done wrong. But the apology in apologia in Greek, the ancient Greek, it means to defend against accusation. So again, there's an apologia and categoria. Categoria meaning accusation, fingering. You're wrong. You've done this and this and that. So you should be punished. That's categoria. And here you're saying, no, I didn't do it. And then categoria says, prove it, prove it. And you're here to defend and prove that you are innocent. And if you fail to prove that you are innocent, and then you are worthy of that charge, accusation, or categoria in Greek word. So that's how it works. So again, so that's how the word apologia is used in ancient Greek. And we bring that word apologia today and called it apologetics, a study of apologia, a study of defense. The apologia was a formal speech or explanation to reply to and rebut the charges. So there are charges, and you do the speech and saying, no, I'm not saying who you are saying I am. So I'm defending myself. No, I didn't do it. I'm not that person, and so on. So that's what it is. A famous example is found in Socrates' Apologia, a defense, as chronicled in Plato's Apology. So there's a writing, Plato's Apology, and in there Socrates gives his Apologia. So that's one of the famous examples of the ancient apologia. Okay? And again, in 1640s, and how it is used in a Western world. And I think if 1640s, during the Enlightenment period, in Europe. There says, definition there, in quote, says, vindicatory containing a defense, which is from French word apologetique. Apologetic is a French, and that word, French word, comes from Latin, apologeticus, and then it comes from Greek apologetikos, which means defensible, and also from apologeistai, and it means speak in one's defense, and also from apologos. Apologos means an account or a story. So usually you tell a story, a narrative, a kind of a speech to defend yourself and tell your story, and when and where I did this and that, and there's a person who can prove that I did that, and that is called witness. So usually in these cases, witness are the proof for the defense, not the lawyer. And lawyer is a today's system. But in that ancient day, usually defense is given by someone who has seen the actual crime or that incident. So that's why an account is there. So again, it comes from Greek and into Latin and then into French, and from French it comes to an English being apologia or apologetics. So that's where the word comes from. So by looking at these word origins, what we do when we are doing an academic study, looking into word origin, it brings us what we call semantics. Semantics is very important when you are doing a study beyond college level. So if you're engaged in any kind of study or science, whether it's a natural science or whether it's a just liberal study, the word is very key, and the semantics helps you to find the spectrum of the meanings or meanings that are associated with, connected or related with that particular word, that enriches your understanding of the language and then term and then concepts. So the reason we are doing this word origin is so help you to get the feeling of this particular word, apologetics. So we come to this formal definition of this very particular word. It's a branch of theology which defends Christian belief. That's what it is, the apologetics. In the formal definition, it says from dictionary, it says a branch of theology. So theology is a study of Christianity in a very systematic, organized way. So in a seminary, like if you want to become a pastor or a missionary, usually they require you to have seminary degree. And when you're in seminary, not just a Christian school like this one, and I mean in Christian school like this one, you do some of the studies that is required in a seminary, but seminary also requires you to study further than just Christian school. Anyway, it helps you if you're trying to become a full-time pastor or want to work with the missionary agencies or church. Then doing a study in Christian school like this one, our Lordland College, that helps you a lot. And some seminaries give you the credits for some of the classes you have taken in the Christian schools. For example, this particular lesson, I mean the class in apologetics, that will count when you're doing the seminary study. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that theology is one major category of the study, or the dimension, the domain of study that is important in a seminary school. And one of the class in theology would be, of course, apologetics. And what it does, what it tells you and what it teaches you is how to defend your Christian faith or Christian belief. So that's the very definition and most simple but key definition of apologetics, Christian apologetics. Because apologetics can be used in a non-Christian field or non-Christian world as well. But usually when you say apologetics, it is Christian. It is Christian. Another definition from the Old English Dictionary, Oxford English Dictionary, would be reasoned defense of one's belief or action. So that's more general. It doesn't say Christian. So apologetics can be used to defend your ideology or your other kind of belief. So there's going to be Buddhist apologetics, and there will be Islamic apologetics as well as Christian apologetics. Or there can be apologetics of your democratic belief or Republican belief. So that will be also may be called apologetics. There's another dictionary. This will be Oxford Language Dictionary, a little different than Oxford English Dictionary. It gives a definition saying reasoned argument. It says a reasoned defense above there, and then reasoned argument. So reason is key again. Or writings in justification of something. Justification of something, typically a theory or religious doctrine. So either it could be a theory, or it could be a belief, or it could be any religious doctrine. And you're trying to justify. Justification, it means I am right. I am right. This is the reason. This is the reason why it is right. So you're saying, I am right because. I am right because of this and this. So by the following because, you have to give a reason. So that's why it is say reason. So if you're insisting something without support or reason or proof or eyewitness, it's just a claim. You can claim whatever you want, but you're not going to win, or you're not going to be justify anything. So it requires you to justify your position with a proof, logical, rational proof, evidences. So that's where the reasoning comes in. Okay. Again, here's another formal definition from Merriam-Webster Dictionary. This is one of the common authority and dictionary in English-speaking world. And it gives two different definitions. One, A, systematic argumentative discourse. Discourse means speech or sayings. Discourse or story, it also means story, in defense as of a doctrine. So as of means, for example, like a doctrine. So usually it came from a Christian background, but today they use in a secular world as well. But basically in English-speaking countries and regions, when you say apologetics, it usually means Christian apologetics, unless you say otherwise. But today, it's any systematic argumentative discourse. So we say debate and argument. It's kind of dialogue. So debate is one good example of being engaged in apologetics. B says a branch of theology devoted to the defense of the divine origin and authority of Christianity. Again, it's a branch of theology, and it has to do with the defense of, it gives a particular topic saying divine origin and authority of Christianity. So divine origin, what does it mean? It's basically saying, how do you know God exists? Prove and show me your God, then I will believe. That's usually the common kind of challenge and charge and the question that you may have faced when you're trying to evangelize someone, help someone to get to know Christ. And they say, if there is God, just show me. And when I see it, I'll believe. That's the origin of divine origin. And then authority of Christianity. How do you know what you believe is true? Because there are so many different religions saying this. This religion is the one. Islam says we are the right one. The Buddhist says we are the right one. The Catholic says I am the right one, and so on. So who are the right one? How do we know? How do we know that Christianity is true? So those are the questions, and that to try to answer those questions and the challenges, we have developed something called apologetics. And I'm going to quote some of his Paul Coulter's. Paul Coulter is one of just the fundamental introductory level apologetics. He's a writer on this particular subject, and he says the task of developing, and it's about the Christian apologetics from now on, not just the word apologetics. Excuse me. So what is a Christian apologetics or apologetics of Christianity? It's the task of developing and sharing arguments for the truth and the rationality of Christianity. See, the topic will be truth, whether our belief, what we believe is true or not. And if it's true, how do we know? Do I know? How do you know that it is true? And rationality means, you don't have to have a crazy mind to believe in Christianity. You're just a regular, normal, sane person as anyone else. And then we are able to explain logically and rationally what we believe and why we believe and why we believe it is true. See, this is a basic process. So you have to be able to explain what you believe and why you believe it is true. So that would be, and the falsehood and the irrationality of alternatives with the aim. Let me try to. The falsehood means when there's two different parties contradicting one another. Say, when A versus B, there's contradiction and conflict. They contradict one another. But some of these differences, contradictions, are differences, meaning it could be different. So, for example, some say the egg is healthy for you. Some say egg is not healthy for you. Okay? There is a cup of coffee. Some say it's not good for your heart. And some say, no, that's not true. It is good for your heart. So which is true? You don't know. And in that case, either or both can be false or true. But when it comes to like this matter, some say God does not exist. There is no God. And A says, no, certainly there is the God with a big letter G, G-O-D. And I know God exists. So one of them is at fault, wrong, not true. And the one is in truth. So that's called matter of truth, not matter of difference. Whether you like an apple or banana, that's a matter of difference. You like a red dress and someone likes a pink dress, that's a matter of choice, matter of difference. It's not a matter of truth, but the existence of God, or whether the Bible is true or not, or whether there is a life after this life. That's going to be a serious question. And it's a matter of truth. And when we are talking about the matter of truth, there's going to be always the chance something, the other opinion might be or should be. It's not might be. It has to be false. So true or false, life matter. It's not something of the difference. For example, okay, which is the fact? Fact, true, truth. 1 plus 1 is 2. And 1 plus 1 equals 0. I mean, in this normal world that we live in, this will be false. This will be true. But that's a mathematical truth. And we are talking about life truth. So apologetics deals with this life truth. And when there's falsehood, something that is wrong, and irrational means it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. 1 plus 1 is 0. That's irrational and that's falsehood. So alternative. This is truth. That's an alternative. Another way. And people say there's God, there's no God. No God. When you say there's no God, that's an alternative. The other party. So opinion A, belief A against belief B. And that's not a matter of difference or choice or diversity, but that's a matter of truth. So apologetics that we are speaking in the Christian apologetics we are dealing with this matter of truth in life. So life truth matters. It matters. So it's life or death kind of question. Life or death. Very high risk, high stake question, and you're debating whether you are true or not. And then with the aim of strengthening the faith of believers and provoking the non-believers to consider Christ. There are two things. First, strengthening your own faith. By doing apologetics, you are going to strengthen your own faith. You're getting to know what you actually believe in a very systematic way, in a very reasoned way, very rational way. And then your faith is going to be very strong, solid, when it is organized, when you can explain yourself about what you believe. So that's number one benefit of your apologetics. And number two benefit is they who listen to your defense may be convinced enough so they can consider Christ. It says, Paul Coulter, he's being very careful saying apologetics persuade someone to come to Christ. No, it doesn't happen. The apologetics is a tool. It's limit. There's a limit. It can help someone to consider, think about it, or think deeply about Christ. But it doesn't make you believe. See, it's not evangelism. Evangelism is not apologetics. Apologetics is not evangelism. There's a fine line, for me at least. I agree with this author, who defines. So for me, from my own experience, I win 100%. I win the arguments or the debate or against this non-believer who is asking these questions. I ask every questions in as much as possible in a biblical way, and he or she is convinced that he or she has no more arguments. But 9 out of 10 they don't believe because I win the argument or debate. See, that's my own experience. But at least they are going to consider. They go home and begin to self-reasoning. Because what you believed has been denied. When your belief is denied, you have to find something, the alternative for your question. Because that's who we are, the human. You need something to believe in or believe on to be a person. If you're not a person, if you're an animal, there's no need for belief. You just follow your own instinct, just like animals do. But if you're a person, there is something called the belief about yourself, about the reality. You have to answer these many absolute, the necessary questions. And when you are out of the answer, then you begin to seek another alternative, another way to try to explain. So that's where the apologetics comes, and there's a limit though. So the second benefit is that non-believers or accusers, the party B, who believes 1 plus 1 is 0. And you should be able to convince that this person isn't wrong, but that doesn't mean that person is going to begin to believe 1 plus 1 is 2. So that's where we are. Okay, I think time's up for today, and I hope you to think about this apologetics and come next week to elaborate further on this very art and science of apologetics. So I'll see you next week. Thank you, and see you again.